goes. Cool. That worked nicely. Welcome. Come and sit by the fire. This is our Warhammer Fantasy 6 Ed podcast where we take shelter from the wild ructions and day-to-day controversies of the modern wargaming world to relax in our cozy grognard space. I'm your host, Josh, and I'm joined by my good friend, Ben, and also a new guest on today, Huw. How are we going, guys?
Good, thanks.
Very good, mate. Very good.
Thanks for coming on. It's nice to get some of these episodes out. I feel like we got a few of them out late last year, but it's a little bit of a hiatus for a bit. But now we're cracking through some, and that's also because we had some 6ed events going on.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys were both at Revenge of the Six, I think it was.
Yeah, and you weren't, you jerk. Quite up in there.
I know. I wasn't. Oh man, I haven't been missing tournaments. I missed the Snake Eyes Tower tournament last week and the 6ed one the week before. I don't know. I just had different work obligations and family obligations over the last few weekends. But the one thing I haven't been missing, and that's the good old 6ed campaign. That's coming up this weekend. But I don't. Yeah. Now, listeners, Hugh's actually been playing in that campaign.
I love that campaign. It's my favourite thing. I'm so disappointed to be missing it this weekend. I'm actually missing it because I'm running a Legion event of all things at GA, which is the same place where Revenge of the Sixth took place, and that's part of the AMG Grand Tournament. So we've got about 80 players coming down across the 3 game systems. It's going to be a big thing for the whole weekend, but my heart of hearts, and I know the listeners will understand, I'd rather be playing 6ed campaign, to be honest. That's what it is.
It'll be so much fun. Oh man, I can imagine looking forward to next Sunday. We're all sitting down, measuring our little dues, and you're sitting there watching him play bloody Legion and Marvel, going,
yeah, constantly asking me rules questions I don't know the answer to because I barely ever play Legion.
What are you actually like in the situation where they're like, are you sort of TOing it in that?
Yeah, I'm the TO. Yeah.
Oh my god.
I just volunteered to help out in a weak moment, but it is, it'll be fun. But I TO a couple of events each year for various different game systems, including a 6ed one, which maybe we can spruik later on.
We will hit that later on. Now, because we haven't really had you on before, do you want to give us a quick sort of little background of your background in wargaming and like how you got into that to start with, and then more specifically with Warhammer and 6ed in general, and maybe you could touch on Tau as well if you wanted, if you've played it very much. But yeah, how'd you get into wargaming, Huw?
Mate, I got into wargaming when I was knee high to a grasshopper, probably about 12 years old, I think, which is 26 years ago. I got into it playing.
Ago, doesn't it?
Yeah, bloody does feel like a long time, mate. Some days more so than others. But I got into Warhammer 5th edition right like toward the end of it. I'm not sure how long it had left at that point, perhaps like a year or so, just prior to 6th. So in many ways, I kind of cut my teeth on 6th edition because at 5th edition we were still like pushing models around on my like mate's carpet, not really, all our unpainted high elves for that wooden rank up and stuff like that. And then, and playing like characters that we didn't understand that D6 wounds didn't like carry over to the regiment. We had like elf characters like blowing off entire regiments of gobbos and stuff like that in 5th ed, which wasn't far from how the actual game played actually, but we were getting it wrong. But by the time 6 rolled around, I played all the way through that and just like fell more and more in love with the hams. I did go through a dark period in my life in my teenage years when I played 40k for a while. But no, just kidding. 40k is fun. There's nothing wrong with 40k apart from...
No, I agree with you. No,
other than the fact that the game is bad, like everything else about it is great. Yeah, but I played through off and on around the place. I moved about the world a little bit, and I moved to Melbourne when 8th edition was still cracking. And I thought I'll dig out the old models. I dug out my old like 5th ed vampire counts, all metal army, and went to a tournament in the Rat, I believe. Was it in the Rat?
Nah, Geelong.
Geelong. It was in Geelong. That's right. And I met Spoon there and a couple of the other lads who I'm still friends with to this day. That was when 8th edition had still a few years left in it. And we then started playing every week around Spoon's joint and eventually around my joint as well and whatever. And we played heaps of 8th Ed. And then when 8th Ed died, we were all a bit aggrieved for a while. And, once we dug ourselves off the floor, we played Malifaux for a fair bit. I had a Malifaux podcast that ran for about 3 or 4 years. That was good fun. I've played everything since then. I play MCP. I play Command. I play Kings of War. I play everything, man. Like even a bit of Legion.
Finger in a lot of pots going on there.
I love
no loyalty.
No
loyalty whatsoever.
They're the best. But and every
do you
time,
want to clarify? By the way,
your mate Nick. Who's
Spoon?
First,
can you clarify who Spoon is? Because Spoon hasn't really been mentioned on this podcast before.
Is that so? Well, that's Spoon right there.
Just he hasn't gone by it on this podcast, but yeah, no.
Yeah, Ben got the name. You had the nickname Spoon forever, right? That was long before I met you. Don't know how long you've had that name.
Yeah, very long time.
Just sort of stuck. I used it as a gaming name, like a Star. It was my name for StarCraft, and it stuck.
Is that how it started? I had no idea that was the origination.
I used it on Warhammer AU as my username, and from there, when I went to events, that's what people called me.
Yeah, once you get to know Spoon well, he will corrupt you and make you play more fun, usually 90s war games.
My surname.
Yeah, Cockstamper is the correct pronunciation, as far as I can tell. Mate, so I played heaps of different games and stuff, and then ultimately, I got back to Warhammer 6th edition relatively recently. This time it was a Ballarat tournament, one of the ones Spoon ran. I thought, why not? We'll dig out the old figures. Yeah, I put Kings of War down for a little while, and so I thought I'll try it. I still had that ranks and flanks itch. I'll give that a shot, and I loved it. Really enjoyed it. I think I played you in that tournament.
Did you?
Josh.
You sure?
Yeah, pretty sure. I remember plaguing like something like 40 odd rats and about the same number of knights off the board. That was good times.
Yeah.
So 6th edition.
I feel like that was a nice top table showdown. That one.
It was
still burns me slightly. I'm like, damn it, I couldn't take down the rats.
Yeah, the plague will do that to you. It still gives you a bit of afterburn every now and again. But yeah, we had a good time there, and then you invited me to play the campaign at some point a little while ago. But anyway, I've been playing it off and on alongside every other game under the sun. But 6th edition in many ways is where my true love, my nostalgia buttons get pushed and all that sort of thing. I feel as far as Warhammer goes. And I mean, there are a lot of other games out there that are far better balanced, simpler for new players, more balanced games in a campaign or a tournament setting or whatever else. But there's a certain je ne sais quoi that Warhammer 6th edition has. And as far as GW goes, it's relatively balanced. I think the army books don't do too badly. Like the bottom 5 armies are still totally playable. Whereas you can't say the same in pretty much any other edition of the game, where often the top few are head and shoulders above the others, and the bottom few are pretty much total trash pandas. You need an extra 500 points of Beastman just to stand a chance or whatever the case may be. So
and the internal balance is not bad either, I feel.
I think that's pretty true.
There's a variety of different builds you can take. I mean the game is still breakable to some extent. I think there are definitely some broken armies you can take and stuff that's not well
still
controlled.
Warhammer. And it's still got some dated stuff. It's still got some panic rules that you can ask someone that's played 500 games of 6th edition, how many inches do you have to measure for this panic test? And they'll be like, bugger if I know, mate. We better look it up again. It's just, that doesn't happen in a lot of other games where the rules are a little bit more, modern in the way that they're laid out and designed and stuff like that. But it's part of the charm. And I think you got to fudge it a bit and just have a bit of fun and get the narrative involved a bit more. And once you do all that and actually, funnily enough, Josh, applying some of the things that we've learnt from wargaming over the years to 6th edition, coming back to it, I feel like we're doing that now, having a bit more scenarios and stuff like that, which we didn't do that much back in when 6th edition, it was just pitch battle all the time, right? Now we've got a bit more scenarios you've been designing for your campaign, all those rules and stuff, a bit more character progression sorts of things and bits and pieces that we've probably picked up from other games over the years. It just makes it even more fun.
Yeah, yeah. The more you can draw from other games and other experiences, I think broadens it quite a lot. I mean, I think to some extent, build no scenarios like that's also just trying to dig into how other ways you can play the game, because even these days, I feel like most people just do pitch battle, really, unless you have like a specific effort to make a different scenario or that type of thing. Especially the asymmetric stuff, I think it's still something people are wary of, but it's a lot of fun if you actually just jump into it.
Like if you by asymmetric, you mean like if you're playing ambush or something and someone's got a way bigger army than the other, or something like that. Like those missions, like they're memorable. They're really fun, and they make you think about the game differently, and all that sort of stuff. Like I think it depends how much you care about balance. Trying to go on too much of a tangent here, but like the comparison I always give when it comes to ranks and flanks is like Kings of War it's got even more factions than 6th edition. I don't remember how many it is, 25 or whatever it is. It's a very well-balanced game. Like there are sort of matchups where it can feel a bit rock, paper, scissors sometimes if people take quite extreme armies, but for the most part, the better player wins like 95% of the time in Kings of War, while in 6th edition it can be as low as like 60% or something. It's just sort of depends, because panic tests can bugger you. And maybe it's not quite that low, but army matchups can still be troublesome and all that sort of stuff. And the random elements that happen in the game, like a few bad 4+s at the wrong time, and you can be absolutely cooked. But that's part of the joy of it. Like in Kings of War, when you fire a catapult, you roll like 3 dice and see if you get any 5+s, and then like roll a wound. When in 6th edition, when you fire a catapult, you guess the range to the target, which you're not allowed to measure. Then you get your little template out, and then you like see if it scatters, see if you misfire. If you do misfire, you roll on a whole different chart on the book, and then it has a whole series of results. And then if you do hit anything at all, it depends. If they're a bit on the edge, it's only 50%. But if they're in the middle, it's double strength. It's like when you actually think about how ridiculously complicated that rule is to shoot a goddamn catapult. But it's the fun of it, right? Like it tells a story every time you shoot the catapult, instead of just like rolling some dice and whatever.
It's a very visual story, isn't it? Having to do that scatter die, the template around and that type of thing. It really,
in fact, in Revenge of the Sixth, I guess 60 inches on my cannon once. I think that's the max. 60? Yeah, 60 inches. I think is the maximum guess. I actually guessed the full 60. That was a bit of a life goal tick off.
I'm
really far away.
It is really far away. I'm trying to work out how, in what circumstance you had to.
The board's 72 wide. The board's 48 across 72 wide. So it's just like, it actually wasn't that diagonal. It was just like almost from one corner to the opposite corner, sort of long ways. And got him too. Got the giant. Good times.
Oh, spoilers.
I think I rolled a 1 to wound though. Just spoilers,
Wait, you rolled the 1 to that is very Warhammer of any edition.
See what I mean? Stories already.
Yeah, that's already stories. That's great. All right. So yeah, shall we move on to Revenge of the Sixth then?
Sure.
So this was a one-dayer. 2 weeks ago in Melbourne. Or was it 2,225 points? I think it was.
Yeah, 2,250.
Yep. Yeah, sorry. That was a weird way of saying it. And yeah, it was a gaming arena in Coburg in Melbourne.
Yep. Amazing venue.
And I do have the thing with this pack was it did have some interesting scenarios together. I might actually be able to bring it up actually. Give me one moment. Oops, no, that's not it. Because there was ones where you could control a stone thrower and that type of thing, which was it a stone thrower? I can't remember.
Yeah. Tom the TO had printed out little mortars for that, but it fired like a stone thrower.
There it is. Yeah, that's scenario 2. There were three rounds, 3 scenarios. Most of them, the first one, I'm interested to see. We can probably hit like your opinion about how well it worked and that type of thing a little bit too. The first one, the Phantom Menace, 24 inches apart, pretty much pitch battle deployment. And then after deployment, each player chooses one unit to escort a mysterious visitor, which is and place an objective marker near that unit as a reminder. And then while the unit is escorting the visitor, its movement character is reduced to 5 unless it would otherwise be lower. And an infantry unit escorting the visitor gains stubborn as long as it outnumbers each enemy unit is engaged with, even through immune psychology. Oh, okay. So that's for like outnumbering, fear, auto breaking, and that type of thing. Is that what that?
Yeah. So there's a lot of rules to it, but suffice to say, you each get one counter.
There's a bit going on there.
Well, there's things in a lot of other games. The concept of like a loot token and your unit carrying it around is already like in the core rules, but it's not. So you kind of need to cover a number of different scenarios. But basically, again, Tom went. Full credit to him. He went to a lot of effort because he 3D printed. I don't know if you know the guy. He's from HeroQuest, so I've got the original guy from like the 90s. But he's this Chaos Sorcerer, and he's basically going like that with his arms up in the air, and he looks like he's like casting a cool spell or whatever. But Tom 3D printed that guy, and that was your little token for everyone got one, so you could take it home as well. And then it was your little token in the actual mission, and basically just made you stubborn. But if you captured your opponent's token, while there are battle points for that as it got to the end, the opponent's token didn't make you stubborn, just your own one, which was a cool little bonus.
Oh, right. So it's not like you become stubborn. Oh, it's only a friendly visitor. Yeah.
Friendly visitor, yeah.
Cool. Okay,
so if you, as you'll see at the bottom there, if none of your opponent's units are escorting a visitor, so basically they've dropped their visitor, you get a point. If you've still got if you've got their visitor, that's 2 points. If you've got yours in their table half, that's 1 point. And if you've got yours in the deployment zone, it's 2 points. So the goal is to get your visitor into the enemy deployment zone. So it encourages, like a lot of good scenarios do, it encourages a little bit of battling. Like you can't really just dwarf it out and sit in the corner. You've got to get your homie to the opposite deployment zone. So that means crunching along. And it also means probably supporting whichever unit has it. Because if they just cruise out on their own with their dicks in the wind, they're going to get hammered. Because you're also limited to movement, I think 5 with the visitor.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
so like an infantry movement,
no more than 5, basically. So it's a bit of a breakthrough style scenario, I suppose. Yeah, cool. So we got that one up as the first one. I may as well hit all the scenarios now. So yeah, round 2. This is the artillery one where you got the stone throwers going on. This is again, deployment, pitch battle deployment, but there's 3 objectives sort of diagonally spaced across the midfield, I suppose. Now these are immobile objectives, aren't they? So each one is set there for the whole game. In addition, if an unengaged infantry unit of at least unit strength 10 controls one of the flank objectives, they may fire. There's an artillery piece that's part of the objective, I believe. And they can fire it like it's a stone thrower. Now, I think it can be destroyed as well if the crude artillery gets charged by an enemy unit. Yeah, it's automatically destroyed, basically. So it's just the flank objectives, isn't it? So the middle objective, does that do anything? Yeah.
It just gives you good points when you
hold it. It's just... Yeah, okay. Yeah, when you hold it.
Yeah, this one had a few whack rules in that you couldn't go through the artillery piece. It was a bit like a war machine in that you could like charge it and then sort of spike it and destroy it if you wanted to. And also shoot it if you have enough unit strength and stuff. But it created a few kind of whack situations where if you had like an enemy unit holding the objective on the other side of the machine, you couldn't charge them because the machine was in the way. So it like the objective being like a solid object in effect created all sorts of weird spots, we found out. I think if Tom ran it again, he'd probably make it like so that you can charge over it and through it like it isn't there, because otherwise you can sort of use it like say another blocking piece of terrain or something and create some kind of weird circumstances where one unit can like hold a whole flank because of the virtue of the fact that the objective is there. But shooting them was fun, and like you got extra bonus points down the bottom if you like shot both of them or if you shot one of them at least once. And
so even if you just participate in the objective, like the scenario by just shooting it, you get a bonus point. I like it. That's funny. Yeah, no, I think I see what you mean, and it's almost like this is the type of thing where you don't want to interfere with the movement phase too much, but the concept and the fun of having the opportunity to just randomly shoot stuff because you've got a block of infantry there that can do it. Yeah, I definitely can see the intent there. That looks like a lot of fun. And then the last one, this is that is a scary looking deployment map.
It's sort of L-shaped, like an L shape in each corner. And then while the other one also had the objectives diagonally, you kind of had a home objective and one that was really far away. And you only got points for the one far away. You could claim your home one, but you could only get points for the center one and the one that's further away. Well, there's this one, they're all in neutral ground. You see, they're all kind of
they're all equidistant
appointments, and they're all worth points. So it's kind of, it's interesting. This one, they don't shoot at each other and stuff, but you can like loot them and get extra attacks or extra weapon skill for units and stuff. So it's just kind of fun. It's like a little Mordheim loot chest or whatever.
Oh, yeah, right. So any infantry unit, police unit strength 10 that is within 3 inches of its objective they control may loot it in their turn, gaining 1+ weapon skill for moving through a game. It applies to characters that are in the unit, but only while they're in the unit. Oh, and what's the other one? So if you're Warlord, which I assume is like the general, I don't know.
Yeah.
You assess Warlord is within 3 inches of the center objective at the end of any turn. They claim a particularly mighty prize and gain extra attack for the rest of the game. Nice.
Yeah, you got the bonus points in this one were around like injuring the enemy Warlord and doing it in the challenge and things like that. So naturally, I took the most powerful Warlord available in the game, which is a Empire Elect account, ready to take on any foes. Ben, of course, was a complete cheese monkey and took Evil Demon of Doom, which frankly was a better choice for this scenario. But yeah, I'm sure we can get to whatever went down in that scenario for both of us when the time comes.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I can't wait. To hear what happened. And yeah, so it's interesting. So the battle point, the bonus points are all about killing you in a Warlord and destroying this most expensive unit. But the objectives themselves aren't worth battle points. They're actually worth 100 victory points. Is that
and that was the case in at least those two scenarios, the one with a stable objective.
The previous one as well?
Yeah, you get battle points. Which is kind of tied to the objectives in that case, because it also meant like you could shoot the war machines and stuff. So it was cool. And as it turns out, the battle points that you got for like foreshadowing, but the battle points that you get out of those objectives ended up being quite impactful because they're like round on round. It's not 100 points at the end of the game. It's 100 points for like at the end of the turn if you hold it. From turn 2 onwards, I believe it is. So you can keep accruing them. And so you're kind of forced to keep battling over those points. And if you just leave someone chilling on the point all game, they can get like sort of 400 or 500 victory points for the side, which is obviously a lot.
Right. I totally missed that. 100 points per turn. That's completely different. Yeah.
It was probably a set of scenarios. I think it's fair to say it like promoted a fair bit of movement in your army. Like it was really helpful to have a lot of movement because you wanted to get around the board, but you also wanted to like be staunch and hold points, which obviously requires some different sorts of units. Like infantry units were still super solid for just like wandering up onto a point and then standing there and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so you need to get up there. So it encourages people moving up to the midline and staying. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, that's actually a good way of doing that, actually. I would have been happy with a diagonal deployment, I reckon, on this one.
Yeah, it's very complicated. Like game 3.
Oh, that's game 3 too, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. My brain was fried by that point.
I didn't think it was that hard. You Warhammer players, I say that as a 25-year Warhammer player, but like other games have these sorts of deployments all over the shop, so it's quite. Are
you saying I need to start adding in some really complex deployments to the campaign? Is that what you're?
Mate, there's a lot of things your campaign has. No one's ever been like, man, this is not complex enough. I don't think anyone said that, so you're probably safe.
Okay, good. Because I feel like I'm really treading a line of complexity with a lot of what I'm trying to pull off there. Anyway, so shall we quickly go through just each list that you guys brought to give a bit of context about the battles, And then we might just go through each game you guys took, sort of sequentially, because there was 3 games each, and then the last. Well, it'll really only be 5 games to go through because you two ended up facing off at the end of the day, which.
Yes, we did. And Spoonie, you judging by your background, probably took Corn, right? Maybe you want to kick it off.
The King of Slaanesh here, guys. Like, honestly, like I've been getting ribbed for like apparently being like this cult leader of Slaanesh for the last 2 months. Ever since I made up these bloody monolith things that apparently look really suspect. I've been getting absolute shit for it. But
does that have anything to do with you running a cult of Slaanesh army as well, Josh, or is that just coincidence?
That's a coincidence, mate. Let's just ignore that bit. Ignore that bit. Ben's been running Slaanesh for years. Like, I don't think that was the first time I think
I'm in some sort of cult of like Slaanesh or something. It's weird. Spoonie, you start, bro.
Okay, no worries. So I took Slaanesh Demonic Legion. My list was Demon Prince with the Marcus Slaanesh. He was a level 4. Had the Musk, so half WS and half initiative when he's in contact with enemy units.
Nice.
Then he had Splendor, which is an upgrade to the ward save, a 4+ ward save, and the Blade of Ether, so no armor saves when he whacks you in combat. I also had an Exalted Demon marked with the Marcus Slaanesh, level 2, and he had Soul Hunger that paid dividends so many times. 3 units of Demonettes, 2 had full command. 1 Demonette unit had just a standard because I ran out of points. 2 units of 6 mounted Demonettes and 2 units of 3 Pleasure Seekers. That was my 2250 point army.
Nice. Very themey. Love the multiples of 6 there.
Tried my best.
Classic Spoon. All Slaanesh all the time. It's all hell for leather too. How many movement 10 units is that?
Absolutely
2, 3, 4, at least 6.
6.
It's a lot of fun stuff. Yeah, cool army. Very, very quick. Fortunately, also has a bunch of demonettes, which are kind of potatoes in the middle, just to give your opponents some stuff to kill, which is awesome.
Yeah, it does make it look like an army. Like if they weren't there, it would just suddenly it's just not quite. It doesn't feel like it's a.
You hear playing Age of Sigmar or dare I say it, Old World.
Oh, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure to go there, but yeah, he's done
it. It's done. Anyway, all right. The Mighty Mozart Company. This is the first time they've taken to the table outside of Josh's campaign. So this is the Empire, of course. Nordland, to be precise, the lovely blue and yellow fellas. One of which features on the little picture for this. In fact, both Spoonie and my model, which I didn't know because why would you tell me? It wasn't particularly like important or whatever. But I'm scrolling through YouTube last night, and I'm like, is that my model? What the hell is shocked, and then I realized it was like a pre-ad for this podcast, which was very funny. I'm like, somebody's taking photos of my stuff. Anyway,
was that like indignant? Like who's taking?
I thought I was just so tired from young kids keeping me up all night that I was going mental. But no, it really was my model. Anyway, we've got Leopold the Black, the Elector Count on the Griffin. Of course, because it's gangster. He's got full plate armor, enchanted shield, lance, holy relic. So he's just a 4-up ward, armor save, lance guy. Then we've got Stavros Scrollholder, who's a weather wizard. Not Stormcaller like he is in the campaign because he didn't have the cool storm spells. He's just chilling on life magic because I felt like taking life magic, which I do strongly believe is the most bent 6th edition lore. Cedric Van Horseman, who is a light wizard on a noble steed, and he also has Van Horseman Speculum.
Oh, does he? Oh, does he?
Then we've got Color Captain Cornelius, who is a battle standard bearer with the armor of meteoric iron and a hammer of might, or a sword of might. Which I changed to a hammer because the sword broke. Then I've got 23 Nordland Marines, which are the mighty swordsmen with the Griffin banner. We've got 10 Free Company as a detachment and 10 handgunners as a detachment. Because in the campaign, my handgunners got shot off by a single hail of doom arrow and obliterated, and then like my whole army ran off the board, and I'm like, you are a detachment now. So of course panic when they're a detachment. Learned from that. 6 Knights of Manon, which is of course, as everybody knows, the Empire god of the sea. They are a unit
obviously,
which are a unit of regular old knight friendos with a muso. And 6 knights with a muso who are Knights of the White Wolf. So they got the hammers instead of the lances. We've got 10 huntsmen, the Desert Eagles, who have claimed no less than 3 eagles in the campaign now, all in close combat. None of them shot with their longbows. Classic. We've got a great cannon, a mortar, 2 units of 5 road wardens or dudes with pistols on horses. What are they called? Pistoliers. Makes sense.
Yeah.
They got a homie with a repeater pistol in them, and then I've also got a Hellblaster and Dogs of War Iron Guts. So 4 very flamboyant, empire-y looking ogres with big old swords.
They do look
hanging out as Iron Guts.
They do look nice. I wonder if I've got a photo of them.
Maybe.
I don't have a close-up photo of the Iron Guts, but there's your.
That's the army. The Iron Guts are in there somewhere.
Yeah,
you can squint.
Sort of in this. Sorry, I don't have a handy photo of a close-up of them. But yeah, if you squint really hard, I think the next one might have their butts. You can sort of see their butts there. But yeah.
Oh yeah, you can see them. They're standing there to the right of the Griffin, hanging out.
The magnificent Griffin.
Being gangsters. Yes, the fabulous, enormous Griffin that I needed to enlist the skills of Benson to craft me a base where it actually fit on 50 mils. It ain't easy anymore. They're making those puppies big these days, man.
Wait, hold on. Oh, right.
He's on this whack diagonal base.
That is gigantic.
Yeah, he's like trying to high five the Black Orc guy in that photo, as you can see.
The base at the bottom is this tiny little thing, and it's like completely going right off it. I don't even know how you got that to balance, man.
I just pinned the shit out of it. Yeah.
Is that the Warhammer Griffin too, or is that a printed one?
No, it looks really similar to the Warhammer Griffin, but it is a 3D print one. There's those guys. Oh God, I didn't come prepared remembering what they're called. Josh, you've printed some stuff from those guys before.
Is this Highlands?
Highlands, yeah, it's a Highlands one. Yeah.
Okay.
About half the army roughly is various 3D prints, quite a few of which are Highlands, and about half are like actual old Warhammer figures. At the time of building the army, this is a really new one. This is only painted this in the last 12 months. This one, like at the time of building it, half the Empire Empire models, weren't available.
Yeah.
So it's not like I could even buy the GW models if I wanted to.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a big mix of all sorts of ranges in there.
But
they still look reasonably cohesive, I think.
Yeah, it's funny to think that it wasn't that long ago that none of the Warhammer range was commercially available, like at all, across all the armies. Like, I mean, well, apart from some of the stuff that was still in the Age of Sigmar. But now we have the luxury of just really being able to pick stuff off the shelf, and most of it's still pretty much the original model from 20 years ago.
Well, that's it. I started to build some stuff for an army for Old World. I'm like, why don't I try get back into Old World, see what it's like. So I start building Empire. My only other army that I've still got intact, by the way, on the old fantasy bases is Skaven. So you can imagine me playing Skaven and Empire in Old World. What they just finish at the bottom of every single TL list on the internet, including one I saw the other day, which is most fun armies. Both Skaven and Empire are in D. So I'm like, I'm not rushing into. I'm like, can't wait to play Old World. But anyway, I'm not here to rag on Old World. We're here to talk about how awesome.
Yeah, we're here to talk about Empire can be good if you build it in the right way. Basically, don't take any state troops. Anyway, let's keep being successful.
Okay. So anyway, you wanted me to talk about the game since you got the photos up? Or?
Yep. You might as well go straight into your. Is this the right game, by the way? Because you pretty much
that's game one.
Just threw photos at me, and I was like, I'm pretty sure this is the order to go in. Yeah. All right. So who'd you play?
So this lovely orc army, very old school figures, looking very cool. There's some great paint jobs on some of those giants too. It's a bit hard to tell from some of these photos, but this is Brian Donald, who is a player from way back. He mainly plays 5th Ed. He's the only person I've talked to in the last 20 odd years who mainly plays 5th Ed. But yeah, he and his mates play a fair bit of 5th Ed, and he's a big fan of 6th Ed too. So he's come down for this event. Really nice bloke. He's got Ard Boys there. These orcs close to the south of screen are a unit of Ard Boys, I think, and then somewhere up there just beyond the trolls, there's sort of trolls in the middle. He's got 2 giants, and he's got Grimgore with a unit of Black Orcs just beyond the trolls, like to the north there. So yeah, and a couple of units of Boar Boys as well. So it is a Grimgore's Ard Boys army, which is considerably harder, I think, than the standard Orcs and Goblins list, at least if you want to go for a lot of Orcs. But it's not a hard army in any way. It's quite a balanced sort of mixed force. Like Grimgore himself is pretty nuts. He's actually, as far as special characters go in 6, a bit bent, but he's an on-foot character, and ultimately that has so many disadvantages. He's like 1 million squillion points, and he just shambles 4 inches a turn. So it's not like you can't play around him. You absolutely can. If he was on like a flying mount or something, he would be probably the most bent character in the game, because he's literally like, you charge him, he goes, I strike first, 7 attacks, re-rolling a hit, 2's a wound, re-rolling, no armor save. He just deletes the front rank of whatever he's fighting, pretty much. It doesn't matter if you're a vampire lord, you're just dead, pretty much. So you don't fight Grimgore. He is that hardcore.
That's the take-home message. Yep.
Yeah.
Did you fight Grimgore? We'll find out, I guess.
I did. No, I'm kidding. You will see. I don't know how many shots you got.
Man, Horseman, Speculum.
Well, I would have loved to trial that, but broadly what happened in this game is the swordsman unit in the bottom right of this photo here had the visitor. You can barely see the visitor, a little grey sorcerer man in the back there.
Yeah, right.
So my plan, after deploying as I did, was to sort of distract the most of Grimgore's army with these fast friends on my left flank, and on my right flank it was wander up into the deployment zone with that unit of swordsmen, which is pretty hard to shift. Grimgore's unit could definitely cream them, but pretty much any other unit would struggle to beat the swordsman in a drawn-out fight. They've got the BSB in there and the Griffin banner, so they're pretty hard to shift. Yeah. So they were just going to wander into the deployment zone. That's more or less what happened, is they did just wander into the deployment zone on that side. And this unit of Ard Boys sort of behind the house, more or less in the middle, moved to sort of left of screen and came in towards where the Griffin was and all of his mates. And I got a lucky Hellblaster shot off. It did 30 shots, the maximum at the strength. At strength 5, I think it was. Yeah, it was the full, so it was the giant who you can't see because he's directly behind the house. There's obviously a giant on the far left flank. There's also a giant immediately opposite the Hellblaster. He came wandering around the other side of the house, and the Hellblaster just unleashed hell. It just went misfire 6, which is like the max shot. So it just went kaboom.
Oh, right. So you didn't roll 10. You rolled misfire shot up, but you just have to roll 6. That is Warhammer. Yep. That's
Warhammer, and I absolutely turned him into a red mist. I just rolled all these dice and went to take him off because it's like 5 Sawoon. Just so that giant got so owned that the big old boys, which also had his visitor in it, failed a panic test because they're stubborn, but they're not immune to panic, and they fled and sort of buggered off diagonal, sort of north west of screen, I suppose, and that put. That puts my opponent in a pretty bad spot. Poor old Bri from there. I also landed the Griffin behind, basically all the infantry advanced forwards. I landed the Griffin behind them. I charged the Knights and the Pistoliers, and there's a Pistoliers just off the screen to the left there as well, and several other units into his more chaffy, fast cavalry sorts of units, and they just utterly fluffed. Every time they would charge in and they'd just miss every attack but one, and then lose combat by 1 and run away and stuff like that. So they were completely useless, really. But they did distract his units for a while, which was kind of their goal. I thought they might at least kill the unit of 5 Boar Boys or something, but they failed to do that. Yeah, but they did sort of annoy people.
You're okay at that, at least.
Yeah, I would have thought they'd do a bit better, but the Griffin landed behind and just rotated as the classic flying character kind of scenario. And after the poor old boys, the big Ard Boys, fled and dropped the visitor, Grimgore's unit decided to marched sort of sideways. So if you can see that hill just in front of the Griffin, they kind of poked sideways onto that hill in order to get the visitor. They kind of walked eastward to get that visitor and just poked onto the hill. And the Griffin who'd already flown behind them just went, all right. And the Griffin charged them in the butt and the ogres charged them in the flank. So Grimgor was out of combat.
Oh.
And they got
doesn't sound good.
About what you'd expect would happen when you get charged in the flank by ogres and in the rear by Griffin. They got absolutely munched and turned into a blender. And I killed like 8 Black Orcs or something, and they broke and ran. And I killed Grimgor and got the visitor and the general points and all of that stuff from that charge, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so meanwhile, all these bar stuff's trying to walk around the forest to the west, kind of getting distracted by particularly cowardly and pathetic knights and pistoliers and stuff like that.
Yeah. So Grimgor got taken down without even seeing a round of combat himself. Oh, the indignance.
Yeah, Grimgor got owned. I was planning to just not combat Grimgor at all, but when the opportunity was too ripe. So that was definitely the biggest mistake that Bri made, was that, and I think he would say the same. That was a bit of a fluff move. Like, it was really just getting them on the hill. And even when he moved them, I'm like, yeah, you realize I can see them now. I can see that flank and stuff. He's like, yeah, I think he got a little bit narrow visioned, like tunnel visioned on the objective, which is fair enough, like, because he needed someone to pick it up. But with the benefit of hindsight, probably should. I think he thought that my Griffin wouldn't be able to go over the other orcs, but because he's a large target and he can see over them, he could just flap over the top.
Right. It's a large target, is he?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Can you see how large he is? He's a very large target. In
I
fact,
mean, he's not very large. Yeah.
If you have any kind of shooting, he's a large target. Let me tell you, 4 toughness 5 wounds with absolutely no armor is not a juicy stat line when it comes to. He dies to 10 crossbowmen a fair percentage of the time. It's pretty sad. Anyway, that happened. I owned Grimgor, and then as you'll see in the next shot, I think. I had a really cool.
The next shot I have is that one.
That one is really fun. So the Griffin then charged the flank of the big orc unit alongside his ogre friend. So not only had he lost Grimgor and the thing, but he's also got flanked his only big scary remaining unit by those two. So my distraction flank became my butt kick flank somehow. And Griffin got in combat with this guy. So he's a special character. I forget what his name is, but he's
an
Ardboys. Yeah, he's an Ardboys Black Orc special character. He takes up 2 hero slots, and he's really crazy good. Like, he's strong as well. He's not Grimgor crazy, but he's pretty hardcore, especially for a hero. And he headbutted you might remember, I remember the special rule somehow, but he can headbutt in a challenge, in the first round of a challenge, and he headbutted the Griffin and stunned it, and the Griffin was and got confused and stuff, and all that happens before actually fight. I think they go to weapon skill 1 or something. It was hilarious. I thought it was great fun that he just headbutts this giant Griffin. So that worked. And he did actually ultimately kill the Griffin, and then I had to replace old mate there with a particularly absurdly flamboyant hat with a infantry version.
That is an incredibly flamboyant hat. Anyone who's listening to this podcast should really have a look at the photo of.
Yeah, he's murdered 17 ostriches, put them on his head, and then said to the tailor, "Needs more feathers." But yeah, he did lose poor old Griffy boy, Duck or whatever his name is, to the ogre, but it ultimately didn't matter. The rest of the boys ran at some point, and he chased them down. But the real mad moment in this game happened right at the end. So the giant that you saw in the previous shot, far to the western flank in that photo, that giant there, that character, there's chubby number in the far northwest, not the human, the figure. On the table.
On the table. Yeah, not the dude sitting at the back. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. That guy, he came around this side and then wandered all over the bloody board. He got shot by the 60-inch cannon gas, and which rolled a 1-2 and it didn't actually hurt him. Which I thought was quite. It just obviously ran out of steam. It was max range. The cannon's just off screen on a hill, just to the
on the hill. Oh, is that where that base edge is on the photo? Just
I think that's the handgunners. So I think it's just to the side of that.
Oh, so it's just to the side of that.
It's basically as far as it can be on that side, and the giant, as you can see, is about as far as it can be on that side. So ultimately, he got the big 60 off, but obviously it had run out of gunpowder at that point. It just bonked off the giant's chest, which is funny. But that giant ended up wandering all the way across the board, just like it charged the some unit. Oh, it charged the ogres, and after they killed the world, basically they kicked ass this game. Then they got run down. I think they lost by 1 and got run down by the giant. But then the giant ends up in his deployment zone again. He's done like a big old U-turn, and guess who else is in his deployment zone? My unit of untouched swordsmen. So I'd moved the battle standard bearer out of the unit to get them in range of the ogres, knowing that they would likely have to take a fairly dicey leadership test. So they did. That did come to pass, and I felt very clever at the time because I was like, look, they're in range of the battle standard bearer. So they were leadership 9 -1, so leadership 8, because they were also near Leopold. Rerollable, but they failed it anyway. So they just rolled like a 9 and then a 10 or something like that. And off they went.
The reroll as well.
Yeah, failed the reroll. And then start of my turn 6, I went second. Start of turn 6, I've basically killed his whole army except this giant. He's literally the only model left on the board is this bloody giant. I've like murdered even the boar boys eventually went down to like firepower and whatever else. And he's standing next to this untouched swordsman block, which has the visitor in the deployment zone, which you may remember is worth all the extra tournament points. Terror tests. What do you think I rolled? I rolled, of course,
what?
An 8. So if the battle standard's still in the unit, they pass. But because the battle standard has left the unit, they fail by 1. They're leadership 7, right? So off the board they go. Ran off the board, took all their points with them, and dropped the visitor, so I didn't get any of the extra bonus points for all the effort of carrying the visitor all the way across the bloody board in the last turn. So both Brian and I thought that was pretty hilarious.
That's hilarious. I would just be lying on the floor, like, oh my god.
Honestly, that's why you play 6th edition, is that sort of nonsense, right? This giant that survived several cannonballs and everything else. He's a lone survivor. He just walks up to these untouched swordsmen, these veterans of Nordland, and just goes oogity boogity, and they just bugger off the board.
Off the board.
Jerks.
You roll an 8. Yeah. Where if you kept the BSB in the unit, they would have been fine.
Yeah, I know. The like statistically superior play, like totally just max punished. So they got creamed. And they even ran far enough to like go off the board, and it wouldn't have mattered anyway, I think, because it was turn 6, so they couldn't rally, and yeah, it's all very sad.
Oh yeah, so that was literally the last turn.
Yeah, well, and if I'd gone first, I wouldn't have even rolled a terror test, because you roll at the start of your turn if you're within whatever, I think it's 6 inches or something of the terror. Was it? Like that. Yep. Yeah. Anyway, good fun, and actually very amusing end to the game, because to be fair to Bri, he'd got the worst end of the luck for the most of the game, like hence the fact that there were no orcs left. But we sort of got to pay it back with a few botched leadership tests, which ended up being a theme of the whole day, as you'll discuss.
Oh, I can't wait to see. So, what was the score in the end?
Should have known you'd ask me that. I don't remember, but it was a minor victory. I've got a bunch of numbers in front of me that, as you scroll on your sheet when you're calculating victory points, I forget which game's which. But suffice to say that it was a minor victory for me. Could have probably been a massacre if the swordsman hadn't run off, I think, because they are also my most expensive unit and so forth.
Yeah. And they had the objective, and it also,
Yeah. So I think that it was something like a 13-7 maybe, or something along those lines. So a minor victory. Yeah. Fair enough. Fun times. Right. Really fun.
All right, Ben.
I told you to come back to me once you see the pictures. Here we go. This beautiful stunning baby.
Is this the right round? That's game 2. All right. So would it be? No, that's also game 2. That's game 2. Oh, you took a few photos of this one. Yeah, here we go. Ogres boys.
Okay. So I'll explain my deployment top to bottom. So
Who were you playing for the
I
first round?
I was playing against Richard, and he was running Ogre Kingdoms.
Ah, nice. Because he was talking about maybe doing the Iron Tusk tribe or something, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's just standard ogres though.
Or something like that, but it was just standard ogres. Yeah, right.
I think he had to run the special character if he wanted to run the Iron Skin tribe or something, whatever it's called.
Iron Skin, sorry, not Iron. Yeah, yep.
I think that's what it's called.
It was a white dwarf list. There's it's layers of six head. You?
Yeah. There's a lot of armies once you
count
count
all
all
the
the
everyone. There's something for everyone.
Slightly different armies and stuff. Yeah.
There's a lot. But just when you think you've heard them all, suddenly someone pops up with a random Citadel Journal list or
zombie pirates or something that only have like 3 units or something, and you're like, what the hell?
Yeah, well, I think there is that, isn't there? There is a zombie pirate list.
Yeah, it's complete potato list. It's so useless. Anyway,
keep going.
My deployment from top to bottom was there's a Demon Prince behind a unit of 12 Demonettes. Those Demonettes had my Visitor. If we go a little further down, had my Exalted behind a unit of Demonettes, and next to them, another unit of Demonettes. A little further down, we had 6 mounted Demonettes, and behind them 3 Pleasure Seekers. And a little further down again, 3 Pleasure Seekers, and last but not least, another unit of 6 mounted Demonettes. Richard had 3 units of Lead Belchers, I think, 2 per unit. Unit of, there we go, that's better.
Yeah.
Unit, if I go bottom to top this time. Lead Belchers, 2 of, unit of 4 Bulls, and there's a Butcher right beside them. Move a little further up, there was another unit of 2 Lead Belchers, and I think next to that is Iron Guts from memory, which had his Tyrant in it.
Yeah. That's the other side.
Yep. 2 Rhinox. Those things are bloody scary. And then next to that, I think it was just another unit of 3 Bulls. There's another 2 Lead Belchers on the top end.
Yeah, the Mournfang, they're like mini dragons, aren't they? Like they're crazy. Their stats.
There's a lot of attacks and a reasonably good armor save from memory. But they cost a squillion points. And I think there's a Butcher. I think it's a second Butcher behind that second unit of Bulls there. And that was his army. Anyway, his Visitor was in the bottom end of his deployment with his Bulls. Basically, there's probably a couple of key highlights in this. My Demonettes that had the Visitor got eaten by Ogre Bulls. Those Ogre Bulls decided to take my Visitor to my deployment zone. Can't see it in that picture. I'll just flick through. I've got a couple of pictures on my screen as well, so I'm just trying to remember what happened. On the other side, funnily enough, I took his Visitor by killing his Bulls. I did run a unit of 6 mounted Demonettes and 3 Pleasure Seekers into 4 Bulls. I absolutely fluffed my dice, and I was packing myself because I've got no BSB, so there's no reroll for demonic instability. But I managed to pass both leaderships without losing any Demonettes. He did mush quite a few of the mounted Demonettes because they're T3. But I ended up killing them in the I think it was the next round of combat. Must have been second or third turn. I got through and then hit his Visitor in the top right-hand corner of his table end. So we got visitors to the other end of the table, but they were the wrong visitors. We exchanged.
You exchanged visitors.
Right. We were meant to get ours to the other end, but we ended up not reading it correctly or just hiding each other's visitors from anyone else. Pick him up. The biggest moment of the game, there's a little forest in the middle of the table, which was a great choke point for me to play with, because he'd lined up his Iron Guts and his Rhinox to come through the center, but they couldn't quite fit.
I think I got it here. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, he couldn't quite get the Iron Guts through when he finally got to charge. but is
It's sort of
through it.
There's a big chunk of impossible terrain there as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it was the forest that slowed him. He'd had to get the charge off. He had to wheel, and he'd have to wheel through the forest.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, he's run into the longer unit of demonettes with the Exalted. The Exalted wasn't there at that point in time. Where is it? See, with the Gorge is there at the moment. My Exalted does come down to try and dispose of the Gorge that's behind my unit of demonettes.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, then if we flick, have I got another photo of it maybe? Don't think so. Anyway, my Exalted ends up coming back behind that unit of demonettes to kill the Gorger. Gets in combat, but the Rhinox hadn't run into the unit of. That's okay. Yeah. The Exalted gets into combat with that Gorger, but unfortunately the Rhinox have made it into the longer unit of demonettes, ones that are 6x2, and basically cleaned them out to a man. Can't remember how the Exalted died, but there was one demonette champion left in that unit of 12 demonettes. In my turn, the unit next to it charged the Rhinox riders because he's already engaged with a unit in combat. Takes a panic check.
Oh no!
Panic check and gets run down.
What?
The old panic check.
Yeah. I didn't expect that unit of demonettes to actually last. He fluffed a few of his attacks with the Rhinox. I was lucky that champion was still alive.
Yeah. Was it? Did you have to roll a decent instability test for her to survive? Like, did she lose combat quite badly?
I lost. I don't think it was a big margin. I did lose a couple from instability, but there was just the champion.
Just had the one wound left.
Yeah. I think he flipped after.
Amazing.
I don't think his impact hits did much, and I think he fluffed quite a few of his attacks when he actually struck.
So at some point, GW decided that failing like panic and leadership tests are not fun. And later editions, especially 8th edition, you'll remember everything's either immune to psych or has leadership 10 re-rollable, pretty much.
Yeah, well, the BSB lets you re-roll everything in 8th.
Yeah, and then even other editions like Age of Sigmar and other things, they just like do away with panic entirely. They got it wrong, man. Panic is hilarious. Look at this stuff.
It's great. Yeah. It's punishing, but it adds so much narrative.
Yeah.
I love it.
Tell that to the Rhinox riders, I guess. But yeah.
One champion left.
One champion. And then runs away. Yeah.
Is this the only edition where you get a panic if you get charged in the flank?
I think so. Can't remember if you do in 7th or not.
It's punishing enough to get flank charge when you're in combat, right? Like, so just to add a panic.
It's actually not that impactful. Like it's sometimes it saves the unit, like they get away or whatever. Like it's not because usually if you get flank charge, you just die, right? Like it's actually not that impactful. But in this case, definitely.
Well, if you get run down,
those Rhinox riders could tank those demonettes, no dramas, I reckon.
Yeah, easy. Sorry, there was one other key moment. My prince was flapping around the back behind that big rock fixture thing. He ended up casting, I can't remember maybe it's called Selectable Torture, the one that you cast on a unit character, unengaged unit character, and he fights the unit.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Selectable Torture.
So I cast that on his tyrant in the Iron Guts unit, who had the 10 riser. So he's like 5 or 6 attacks. D3 at strength 7, I think. Might be 6. D3 wounds.
D3 wounds each one.
Yeah.
That's like the first time I've heard that spell is actually going to do some absolutely it's terrifying in a unit of
That's gross.
Oh wow.
So I think it was 7 or 8 wounds, which was enough to cause a panic check on that unit. And they failed to panic check. And
no wonder in our game, Foreshadowing, you kept asking, have you got any good characters that can hit? And I'm like, oh, this guy's got a hand weapon. Or, you're still riding this high.
But to sum this game up, pretty much, Neil. Richard had a really unlucky game with dice, basically. A couple of panic checks that kind of spoiled his day. The game result, we didn't. I think I might have got 2 extra battle points. Richard might have got 1, maybe. It was like 12-4 or something before we added battle points. It might have been like 15-5 or 16-5 or something. Yeah, wasn't a huge win or anything, I wouldn't say. And yeah, as I said, panic kind of ruined his game a little bit. But he had a laugh. He had a good time, and would love to play him again.
Nice.
Was that the first time you played it?
It's so awesome.
No, I played him at what was that event in December?
Llama, Rise of the Llama.
Yeah, I played him. Played his lizardman then.
Yeah, cool. Right.
Just something about 6ed players. They just play Warhammer like gentlemen, you know?
That was meant to be played.
Exactly.
Gentleman's game.
Speaking of which, my next opponent, Total Jerk. No, just kidding. There's a bunch of armies here that you're showing off that are all very beautiful.
Oh, that's a pretty
There's
army.
Spoons.
Oh,
so sexy. There's a lot
That
of
one.
purple in there.
Some of these do look really nice.
This Skaven army was a maze, actually. Like, that photo doesn't really do it justice as
It's too far out for
Yeah,
to really appreciate it.
He's got these
Unfortunately.
super poppy highlights. Every little clan rat is painted so nicely. As the proud owner of a quite poorly painted Skaven army, this is just another level. Like, really, really good.
So we got. Oh yeah, some of these are nice.
There's a discerning gentleman there with that beautiful. Not this one. The previous shot. That beautiful Empire army looking hot.
I don't think I've got any photos of your second game, Hugh.
I may or may not have taken any. You could go back to the army. That would probably do, I reckon. It's a few back. It's the first shot after Spoons, I think.
Oh, so that's the
No.
Skaven army.
Sorry, the first one after his previous battle, I meant. So it's this army with all the black bases. So Graydon, sadly, or happily for me, as we'll learn, but sadly for the tournament as a whole, had not quite finished painting his army. He's an exceptional painter. And again, the shot doesn't, as you know, a shot on the phone from a distance often doesn't. It doesn't really do it justice.
Not at all.
And it is actually mostly painted. It's just missing a bit of basing detail, basically, which is why they got a bunch of black bases. But this is a really cool army. This is Tomb King's army, and they're all Japanese themed. So you can't see too well, but like that right one.
Making the base does, by the way. Like, I can see what it's doing with the base on the thing, and then the rest of them are just having black bases. It just,
exactly.
Already see the difference that they can make. Anyway, sorry, keep going.
They look like so much less done, but actually in person they look like pretty much painted and painted well with a black base, pretty much. But they're all like you got these sort of Yariashi Garu looking dudes on the left here, which are the archers. The Tomb Guard are like hardcore samurai dudes, and so forth. Like every single model is converted to perfection. Like that top right figure there is the Casket of Souls, and that's like a sort of a Oni sort of Japanese spooky wooky ghost lady kind of thing, and blah blah. Anyway, army's beautiful, and I've played Graydon. I've actually never played Graydon before, but he's one of the homies of the local crew that play a bit of 6th edition. Paints super duper well. Seems to have a different army all the time. He's the one that won best painted at the last Cloak and Choppa with his ogre army that all have like incredible tattoos and stuff like that, like freehand out the wazoo. Anyway, really good army, really good army. So this must be his first game where he must have played perhaps the Vampire Count's army to the north of that, I expect. But Huw Showdown in the middle there. You've got that this spider character is of course a Tomb Scorpion, and she's like a centaur, like half spider, half like assassin lady kind of thing, which is pretty cool. 4 chariots, some archers, some skelly spearmen, and then all the like just straight up obligatory Tomb King stuff. So you've got the flying Hierophant with the Cloak of Dunes and the jar of thing that every single Tomb King Hierophant's ever taken in the history of Warhammer. You got another Hierophant who's just like hanging out, probably holding a scroll or whatever. And the Tomb King is this dude with this big like bat thing, which is the Destroyer of Eternities. So he hangs out in the Tomb Guard, who also have the obligatory reform whenever you feel like it banner, which is completely bonkers. And honestly, Tomb Kings, I'm increasingly realizing in 6th, they're one of the top 2, if not top 1 armies. Like they are really, really strong. Like I used to think they were kind of mediocre because in 7th they got left behind pretty quickly, but in 6th they're outstanding. But they do have some things that sort of raise them above the head of the pack, like particularly the fact that their magic is virtually unstoppable, and they have some weird stuff. So turn 1 against Grey Lad is he's moved the Carrion, which are these 3 sort of bases that are just sort of chilling in the middle of nowhere there. Those are Carrion, and he moved them up turn 1 and then just charged them 20 inches across the board into my cannon. So turn 1, I hadn't had a turn, so I lost turn 1, to be clear.
Yeah.
He's going turn first. He moved them about, I don't know, 5-10 inches up or whatever out of the deployment zone, and then just charged them 20. So for anyone who doesn't know, the magic thing lets you basically charge right after moving, but it just caught me as a surprise, despite the fact I've seen it a million times in other Tomb King armies, because the Carrion get to charge a full 20. They fly 20. So if you've got something on a hill, it's charged turn 1, and it is utterly unstoppable. So I think I actually tried to stop it with dice, and he rolled like a 5 on 1 dice, and I rolled like a 4 to dispel. So I'd failed to dispel it. And I'm like, I've got to use like all my scrolls here, like turn 1 first magic phase. But then I fluffed the dispel roll anyway. I probably had like another 3 attempts or something to do it. So off they went, and they, of course, over the course of the next couple of turns, cleaned up the cannon and the mortar, which it honestly felt a little bit crap, like, because it felt like I was utterly helpless. Like the only counterplay to that was to put my war machines behind a unit of infantry or something, so they couldn't charge. And then obviously they don't have a line of sight, whatever, the first couple of turns. But it's a lesson learned, and something that perhaps next time I would do, like, or at least put like a unit of cavalry in front of them on the hill or something like that, and then like move off. And obviously you can ultimately do it later on in the game, but at least they're not getting charged before they've even got a chance to shoot once.
Yep.
So that's a little gotcha surprise. And this is the one where the mortars were across the center, or the catapult.
Oh,
objective.
yes.
Yeah, you catapult objective 1. Yep.
Yeah, which is diagonally across the center, that is. There's one in the dead middle. And I knew I couldn't fight his Tomb Guard mob with the Tomb King. That was just not happening. I don't have any units in my army that can beat that. And unlike, it's sort of similar to Grimgor and his Black Orcs in a way. Like the Tomb King is less hardcore than Grimgor, but still hardcore enough. And unlike the Black Orcs, even if I like flank and rear them somehow and don't get the Tomb King in combat, I'll just kill a few, and then they'll just raise back and kick my ass anyway. So there was no sort of outnumber by fear cause or anything on my side that I could pull. So I knew that there was really no way I could engage that unit. So I kind of played the flanks a little bit more. I did manage to take out his Casket of Souls, which is super scary against sort of any army, but I have a lot of, I have about half a dozen. Yeah, I have at least half a dozen, probably 8 to 10 units that are just basically testing on 7 in most cases against this thing. And what it does, for anyone who doesn't know, is it just sits on a hill and it banshee screams everything that can see it. And I was lucky enough to be on that table, which was actually the same table we saw in the last game that Spoon's army was playing on, which had quite a couple of like really large line of sight blocking terrain. And I managed to keep enough stuff not seeing the casket to not get utterly devastated by it. And I rolled like reasonably well on the casket sort of leadership roles. So it didn't do too much to me in the end. And the Griffin charged it, and it got charged in the butt by the Tomb Scorpion. So then in that combat, the Griffin had the Griffin had its, so obviously you're like scared of heroic killing blow, or not heroic killing blow, just regular killing blow. So in this edition, he just good old fashioned Kieran Bro. Yeah. So you're like worried that he's gonna take poor old Leopold's and remove his head from his shoulders. But fortunately for me, he did fluff and just roll, I think, maybe 1 wound, which may or may not have been saved, whatever, but wasn't the killing blow, which is kind of all that matters. And Leopold took out, he just cleanly went 3 wounds into the Hierophant, boom, the not the Hierophant, sorry, the regular Lich Priest on the on the Casket of Souls. Casket of Souls crumbles, and the Griffin just turned around and just like donkey kicked the crap out of the Scorpion and just did four out of 4 wounds and just took it off as well. So that was awesome.
Wow, just deleted it.
I was surprised. Both of us were surprised with that result. I thought, this could go either way, honestly, just because it depends how the dice go. There's not many dice involved on either side, and if this Griffin flees, he's in deep trouble.
How many attacks does the Griffin have?
4 at strength 5.
So 4 out of 4
wounds at, I think, toughness 5, I want to say. So it was just 4 out of 4 at him. It just kicked his ass. So yeah, that was lucky. Like I was going to win, like say I did 1 or something. I'm not sure how much I would have won combat by, because obviously I'd killed the Casket as well, got some wounds.
It would probably would have crumbled anyway, but it's just funny that
Graydon and I
straight up 4 wounds out of 4 attacks.
Yeah, Graydon and I both expected probably the Scorpion would stick around for at least 2 turns and would have enough chances at that killing blow that it was a serious danger. Obviously, far from guaranteed. But when he just cleaned it up, didn't give it a rat's ass, and then turned around to face the rear of Graydon's army after a bit of posturing, I thought that was a bit of a moment for Leopold. He was standing proud. But the real moment in this game, apart from, there was stuffing around on both flanks. I couldn't avoid the Tomb Guard forever, who did ultimately go into the Ogres, who bravely stood by my catapult and got absolutely owned by the Tomb Guard. They did flee and then eventually rally and come back because he restrained charging them. And I did charge the Skellies with my swordsman in the center, hoping to kill them quickly. That was a mistake on my part, because of course what happened is on his turn, Graydon just went, all right, cool. My Tomb Guard, who are about probably 8 to 10 inches and facing completely the wrong direction to the swordsman's flank, they just free reform and charge the flank of the swordsman. They just get to do it for free with their banner. So they free reformed, then moved, and then charged the flank.
So the charge was a magic spell. So it's kind of like
the magic.
You do the
reform,
free
you can't
move.
stop, happens. The free reform, then they move, then they charge the flank. So you can be like 12, 13 inches away from them, facing the other direction, and you still get flanked. Like they're absolutely unstoppable, pretty much. So of course they went through the swordsman, and they did eventually kill them all. And Graydon eventually won the middle, but meanwhile I had scored a lot of points on the flanks, both in terms of things that I'd killed and also just chilling on the objectives and accruing a whole heap of battle points. My knights had sort of beaten up his Skelly archers and just sort of by weight of unit strength, very slowly and pretty pathetically, honestly, killing the Skelly archers, but chilled on that flank long enough just with weight of numbers to hold down that objective. But then the big turning point, and the reason that this game ultimately went in my favor, really, was Stavros, scroll holder, had his moment. Stavros absolutely clutched it out.
The Stormcaller.
Stavros, the up until recently Stormcaller.
Well, I guess not this week.
Not this weekend. Well, because he didn't have Storm of Kronos. And for those who don't know, he runs around the campaign and I just yell Storm of Kronos on the top of my voice, and just annoy everyone in the room. And he just casts Storm of Kronos a lot.
That's so annoying.
Usually not that much happens, but it's pretty cool. But in this particular instance, he cast the Thorns, Master of Thorns, or Thorn, whatever it is.
Yeah.
He cast that on
Father of the Thorn, I think it is. Yeah.
Graydon's Lich Priest. Because you can just target whatever you want.
You can just target whatever the hell you want.
Missile.
No, it's not. I don't know why it's not.
I don't know why it's not a magic missile. In fact, it was Graydon that pointed out, he's like, you can just target whatever you want. Like, I didn't even realize it wasn't a magic missile. I'm like, oh, you're right. Shit. So anyway, I targeted her, and I thought Graydon played this really well. I rolled like a 15 on 3 dice or something, and he just went, I'm not going to dispel it. Like, knowing that his Lich Priest was going to die, because he knew what was coming next. So, of course, the Lich Priest did die to the Father of Thorns. And then I went, oh, well, I'm doing it anyway. Master of Stone on your Hierophant, because they're floating around on their own. And I've got Master, you just can't avoid it. There was these 2 big old mountains and whatever.
Yeah.
So he knew Master of Stone was coming to the Hierophant. I think this was about turn 3. I'd already just chucked the maximum dice at it the previous 2 turns as well, because why would you not? Like, it was one of these big old mountains that the Lich Priest was floating about.
There's 2 hills, 2 massive mountains there. There's a lot you could cast Master of Stone off.
Yeah, and she had been flying close to the chariots that were on one flank in an attempt to sort of smash Leopold with the chariots with a magic charge or whatever. And so she sort of felt like I'd drawn her over to that flank, sort of, but by virtue of it being too juicy to get the spells off there. But she couldn't really stand not near one of those mountains for obvious reasons. It's 12 inches of them. Like, she'd just be nowhere near the action if she was. But with the benefit of hindsight, I think she probably should have stayed in a unit, because I was just going to throw 3 dice at it until it eventually worked. And this particular turn was Stavros's moment to shine. So after creaming the Lich Priest with Thorns of Doom, he then just rolled another 15 or something, still not irresistible, but just a really high number on the Master of Stone, and killed the Hierophant. So he lost the Lich Priest and the Hierophant in the same magic phase.
Wow.
I don't think my magic did anything else the entire event, but that it was worth it just for that one moment
Just
where
for that.
Stavros could kick ass. And of course, then you
Stavros,
start
man.
rolling
knows what to do.
crumbles, which is not nearly as bad for Tomb Kings, as I found out, as it is for vampire counts, because unlike in the case of vampire counts, you've still got a leadership 10 general. So you've still got the Tomb King. So everybody's rolling crumble, yes, but pretty much everyone left in his army that was very relevant at that point was within 12 of the Tomb King, who was holding down the center. So
yeah, right.
virtually nothing crumbled, really. He lost some skeleton archers, few wounds off the chariots, who ultimately would have died to the guys they were fighting anyway. So I see it as relatively trivial. He did lose probably the Carrion, which he might not have otherwise lost, or a few other points here and there. But for the most part, it was just the fact that I took out his magic and his wizards. That was super impactful there. And then that ended up meaning, and it was another minor victory for me. I carried a lot of, I think I got 600 to 300 on the objective. So that was a sort of bonus 300 clear.
Oh,
For the gradually accrued battle
bonus victory
points.
point things. Yep.
The victory points, I should
fair
say. Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, really good game. Graydon got a little unlucky in a couple of places. And I felt like Leopold just kicked absolute butts for the second game in a row. And Stavros just had his one moment in the sun where for some reason the Winds of Magic said, "Up yours, Tomb Kings." And that was enough to clench the victory. Yeah,
He has a habit of saying that. Just up yours, whatever team. Just Storm of Cronus.
Yes, he has
Marcus
killed a Wizard Lord with his Storm of Cronus.
He's got a reputation. Yes.
He killed a high elf Wizard Lord. Very cool. Yeah, good old Stavros, man. He just defies the odds and does what he can.
Ben, game 2.
Now, who was this again? Who was this against by any chance? This army looks
Travis.
somewhat familiar. Yeah, Travis.
Travis.
So I played
Another campaigner.
In
Beautiful
around
Wood Elf
here.
army.
Yeah, it looks amazing. I've never played Travis before, so this was quite interesting. I've seen him play a couple of times because he's played at a couple of my events. So I've watched him play his Chaos Army, and maybe I've watched him play as Wood Elves, but I've never played against him. Anyway, but I play Wood Elves, so I've got a reasonably good idea of how they work.
He's another Slaanesh enjoyer.
He is.
Yeah, there's a bunch of slithy bastards in this.
There are. Absolutely.
Can't resist the call.
So this one, there you go. There's the printed artillery piece for those that were interested. There's one bottom.
Yeah.
And the
screen
Cool
one
little print.
up the top. Yeah.
Another thing you got to take home alongside some templates and some misfire / scatter dice, custom. So we got custom dice, custom objective markers, and a crazy chaos wizard. Lots of cool bling for everyone to take home. Well done, Tom.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Basically, Travis and I ignored the 2 war machines. I kind of felt like if I was putting a unit of demonettes on a war machine, they weren't really doing their job anyway.
Sounds like the most useful thing they would ever have done, mate. The fire a few of the Empire's glorious mortars into the air instead of just running around flapping their flapjacks at people. That sounds pretty effective to me.
Hey, they caused panic on 2 Rhinox.
That's true.
Anyway, I managed to get first turn, and I think this is probably what made a big difference in our game. It's going to be a bit hard to tell from the pictures because I don't think I took enough of them. But I had my a Prince on one side and the Exalted on the other, and I sort of run my fast units down the flanks and the Demonettes down the guts. The Demonettes in the middle were just there to hold the objective in my table half, or contest it, so to speak. The ones in the middle were going after the middle objective, which was next to his free forest, which didn't really excite me too much. And I had another unit of Demonettes that were in the middle, but slightly towards the top of the table there. Anyway, first turn, I took a risk by flying my Exalted. Probably was definitely within half range of the Clade Guarders down the bottom. Clade Guard, not Clade Guarders, Clade Guard down the bottom of the screen. So if he survived turn 1 from shooting, must have been within. Yeah, he's within his charge range, so they wouldn't get stand and shoot in the second turn. If he survived that first round of shooting, he would hopefully survive a round of combat and kill enough in close combat so that he didn't have to take instability and they couldn't attack back. And that's basically what killed Travis's flank on that side. Would you believe he shot him down to one wound? I think it was, might have been 2. No, he took 2 wounds off him. I think he had 1 wound for the rest of the game. He got charged in the flank by Treekin.
Wait. So that was a stand and shoot. He took off a bunch of wounds, you're saying, or they?
No. I moved it close enough so I wouldn't get a stand and shoot. In his first turn, he shot at me. I'm pretty sure he took 2 of my 3 wounds off in that turn. So I only had 1.
You don't get to stand and shoot Spoon's army much. You might remember, what was it, 7 units with movement 10 or something like that. Like
6.
I found that out too. I'll be like, I'll stand and oh no, I won't. Damn it. It's not a very good idea to flee usually as well, because you need to roll like an 18 to get away.
Against the Demonettes, it's not so bad to flee. I mean, you get a chance of getting away from those guys.
Anyway.
The Exalted was down to 1 wound. He killed enough of the Clade Guard to stay there without dying, and in the following turn got charged in the flank by the Treekin, who all fluffed their attacks. He survived the rest of the game. I can't remember. I think my Pleasure Seekers must have joined that combat to fight the Treekin with the Exalted. The Glade Guard, I believe, also fled. That might have been turn 3 or something. But they disappeared, and my mounted Demonettes that are down the bottom there cleaned them up in another turn. On the top of the table where my Prince is, he basically come down there. He cast the magic missile, which Blissful Throws, I think it's called.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
D6, strength 6 shots onto units. Oh, there was a unit of Warhawk Riders there. And I did 6 hits at strength 6. There was 4 of them. There was only one left. I cast that spell at least once per turn, and I don't think I rolled anything. I'd like to say anything but a 6. There was either 5 or 6 for each time I cast it. So it was just clean enough.
Brutal. So you were just lashing him all the way to the bank, basically.
Yeah, basically, and enjoying it.
Blissful lashing. Yeah, loving it all the way.
Did Travis pay extra for that or not?
Complimentary service. Running down the top flank was also mounted Demonettes and Pleasure Seekers, which ended up running into his Wild Riders, or one of his Wild Rider units, I should say. But
yeah,
my Pleasure Seeker unit there had been cleaned up by his Glade Guard. They took out, it might have been something else as well, but I'm pretty sure it was his Glade Guard. I was very scared because I ran him past. There was Way Watchers in that free forest, and they can killing blow Pleasure Seekers. I was just lucky to get away with no 6s on the shots.
Oh, can you?
Through.
Yeah, that's a weird one. Those Pleasure Seekers, which are for anyone who hasn't worked it out yet, they're the slithy snakes that are a little bit bigger. They're on the 40 mil,
Yeah,
40 mil
so those
base.
monstrous
50
cavalry
mil.
type things.
50 mil,
Yeah,
50 mils.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're the only model on that size base that I can think of, at least, that can be killing blowed. It's
Yeah,
quite unusual.
all the demon cav like that, I'm pretty sure can be. Because their mount,
Yeah.
the model on top is human sized. I'm pretty sure they changed that in 7th. But anyway. The Pleasure Seeker and Mounted Nets sort of cleaned up that flank there and then run around the back to chase him down. You can't see him, but behind that tall pillar is his unicorn mage and his mage on foot.
I think
So
I
sort of
spoke
lapped,
there.
there
It
you go.
is. Yeah.
They sort of lap round there in the hope to catch those guys out or at least make them move. There you go. There's the Glade Guard fleeing from the Exalted. So this must be just before the Pleasure Seekers come into the Treekin. I can't remember what killed that Wild Rider unit there. There's a Great Stag in that unit. I can't remember what I used. It probably was a magic missile from the Prince. I think the Prince come around to try and terror bomb the Wizard on foot. So that's hidden behind that unicorn there. But I can't remember if that worked or not. I ended up casting the magic missile on the Wild Riders, even though they had the magic resistance one, and I killed a couple of them. But then he decided to go all in. He charged his unicorn, and what remained of the Wild Riders, which I think was only maybe a champion and one other model, and the Great Stag into that unit of demon nets next to the bony piece of terrain, rib cage. Let's say it's rib cage. Maybe it's stone feature.
Okay. There we go. I've got
a
nice close up of it. There we go. Oh my god, so it's the stag and one wild rider and the unicorn all in.
And the unicorn.
What's with the unicorn?
Poor
Travis. Because he had murderous sprites or something in the unicorn?
Yeah, he did.
Like
and he forgot to use it. He said, I forgot to use and this was like long after it had happened. Sort of thing.
Yeah, so it's too late to do anything about it. Isn't it? That's like the plus D6 strength 2 attacks or something with poison or something like that.
Yeah.
Didn't you have this big long chat about that in the campaign chat, Josh? About like picking the right sprites or something?
Yeah,
you forget to use them. What a pelican!
I know. Yeah, we were giving him lots of advice because I think Ben and I were discussing at length how to make a viable unicorn. So they came fresh off that conversation. And then Travis was asking the same question, which was really funny. And he forgets to use it. Oh, Travis.
He forgot to use it. Probably would have made a little bit of difference. He might have killed a couple more demonettes.
Well, they're in the top 3.
Yeah.
Magic attacks. Oh, no, it doesn't matter. Magic. Demon legions. Yeah. Yep.
I can't remember if I think I joined this combat. The Exalted come back and lapped around and joined this combat. I think I can't remember. It was either that or the demonettes slowly killed them off one by one and chased whatever was left, sort of thing. But yeah, this one basically once I'd lapped around both flanks, Travis was stuck in the middle with his ancient that was busy occupying the center objective with a unit of dryads and some way watchers, but there wasn't really many of the wood elves left once I'd lapped around and taken the flanks from him.
Yeah,
there you go.
Right. Is that after the combat?
It must be, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Can't remember what.
Yeah, pretty tough matchup for the wood elves there. I can't help but think like you're so fast and they're so squishy.
I think turn 1, me getting turn 1 would have made a huge difference there. Had he had another turn of shooting, maybe he would have cleaned some more stuff up before I got there.
Yeah, like the trees are good against you, but pretty much everything else, it's like one shot and then they're up to an uncomfortable range.
Well, even the trees lose their ward save against me as well because they.
Oh yeah.
No, true.
I didn't even touch I didn't touch. I killed the dryads eventually. There was a huge combat in that forest, which I didn't want to be anywhere near. But it all
it's a shame actually. He's using that placeholder, that little like I don't know aquarium mat or whatever it is, but probably just for convenience to move figures around on it. Fair play, but the actual forest that Trav brought along is probably the most beautiful wood elf forest you'll ever see. It's a commissioned
Very
job.
pretty.
Really, really, really good forest. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen that one, Josh, but I must shout out that woman that does those commissions for bits of terrain, because she does an amazing job.
Oh, I think I've got it. So yeah,
Like Trav's painted the army, to be clear, and
in your
beautifully.
photo of his army.
Oh yeah, that one.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Again, photo.
commission
Not
paint?
the best justice, but yeah, it is a beautiful forest.
Nice big logs. Yeah, nice variety of block and terrain. Yeah,
Typical
I like
Slaanesh
it.
player. What does he think? Nice big logs. That's all he thinks. Anyway, you got a major out of that, did you, Spoonie?
Yeah.
I think I scored
Antarctica,
12 battle points and then maybe one more. Because we didn't shoot any, both of us didn't shoot the artillery pieces.
Should have got the demonettes on those artillery pieces. Get them doing something.
Fire.
So busy.
Yeah, get them to work.
Fair enough. You've only got so many units. Not all of us have half a dozen spare units just hanging around trying to pass rally checks.
Yeah, I think I said to Josh, if I had orcs and goblins finished, I probably would have taken them over Slaanesh, but just because of the players pack. But anyway, we'll talk about that some other time. I think it ended up 12-3 or 4, something like that, and then we added I don't know if I got a battle point or not.
I think Trav's painting an orcs and goblins army too, isn't he? He could have a orc and gobbo off next tournament.
The Black Orcs.
Yeah, he started. That's a 2026 project for me, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's not a hasty one, to be fair.
No.
Yes, so we are undefeated. The mighty.
You are.
I guess at this point we're both 2-0, and both of us like relatively minor victories, but it seemed like no one was smashing anyone across the board, which you'll learn at the end.
Interesting. All those 4 games were relatively well contested. Nothing was smashed there. No 20s.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I got close against Grimgors to being a smashing, but that sort of backflip toward the end ended up making that relatively minor. And that seemed to be the tail of the tape across a lot of the other games. There's just a lot of people playing good, solid, fun Warhammer and having close games rather than just people just getting 20 zips. So probably made for a better tournament that way, I reckon.
It was also hard to get. I found it particularly hard to get a few of the battle points. They were tricky.
True, yeah. Yeah, some of those bonus points were tricky to get, and you did have to focus on the objectives a fair bit instead of just killing your opponent to try to get them.
Yeah.
But in any case, that ended up leaving on the top table, which we weren't sure if it was the top table by the virtue of the fact that we had, as I said, both had fairly minor wins. Like we weren't sure if it was or not. But what turned out to be the top table was me
Showdown
last round.
Undefeated. Both of you.
Ben versus you.
Love it.
Glorious Empire versus Sneaky Tit Monkeys from
I didn't take any photos. Well, I only took one photo of this game, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I have many photos. I've got like
the way it goes.
I've got some random bits and pieces.
So we're playing okay. So there's a lot of joy in this. So I'm going to be honest, going into this game, I was pretty confident. And the reason was I thought to myself, well, I've got a couple of units of cavalry with good armor saves that the Slaanesh, or at least some of the Slaanesh figures, will have a hard time getting through. And in my experience against Slaanesh, which for some reason is fairly plentiful, like we get a lot of Slaanesh players around, so I've played them a fair few times, I tend to just shoot them into oblivion a fair bit. Like it's not like I've got heaps of shooting, but we've got 10 handgunners, 10 archers, cannon, mortar, hellblaster, one of each, and a bunch of pistols and stuff. I wish every shot didn't involve the Griffin's butt, which was like the one thing that I needed to repaint after this. The Griffin's butt clearly sucks, as you can see. It was like rushed the night before. But anyway, whatever. Just don't look at just avert your gaze from the Griffin's butt.
Trying to look
at the Slaanesh characters' butts instead. But anyway, I had enough guns to just cream any poor old Slaanesh character that got in the way. And I thought I can get into a few of these faster units with some of my like quite tough armor units and just hold them up for a while. And I think this is mine. Could not have been more wrong. Like, that is not at all how the game went. It's not that the game, it just didn't, like, the things that I thought were good advantages did absolutely nothing. Like, I don't think I killed barely anything with shooting. I think I killed one of the smaller demonette units, and that was it.
Yeah.
So my shooting was crapola. This was the game, I guess, where my stuff blew itself up. I had lost the Hellblaster to a misfire against Trav, but not Trav, sorry, Graydon in game 2. But other than that, they hadn't been too bad. But this game, I think I lost 2 out of 3 to misfires, and just all my shooting was just completely crap. It was either out of line of sight because of bad deployment and positioning on my part, or it just like fluffed. So that didn't do anything. And the Knights just repeatedly ran away, as we'll get up to in a minute. So they didn't hold anything up really either. So the things I thought would do really well didn't. And then meanwhile, the stuff that I thought wasn't going to be very good against the Slanesh sort of pulled some stuff out of the bag. So yeah, interesting game. What did you think going into this, Bernie? Were you like, oh, I'm going to smash this nerd, or what?
No, I was a bit worried about all your maneuverability and the Knights and Pistoliers and stuff, which, I mean, I move faster, but it's still going to be a pain in the ass. Yeah,
you can't ignore it. You can't just like run up to like 12 inches away or something, because there's enough stuff that can charge and hurt you that it still matters. Yeah.
I felt a bit more comfortable after you deployed.
Because I deployed badly. Yeah, I did. I think I did deploy badly.
Sorry, you go.
No, you're right. This is, if you could imagine from the angle of this shot, like the Griffin was facing Spoon, so I imagine he wasn't too distracted by how bad the Griffin's butt was. You probably couldn't see it that clearly.
I couldn't see it.
I unfortunately could the whole event. But the northwest side of the table, there was an objective, and then just sort of nearish to where these ogres and like spiky head demon friends are fighting, there's another objective, and then the center one you can actually see in the shot, that blue disc there near, so which all the demonettes are flooding onto. So I took that top objective in the northwest, and Spoon overloaded this flank that we're sort of seeing here. So his plan was to clearly roll up that flank, and then just keep all of my most of my shooting anyway was like behind buildings and stuff as compared to that flank, and couldn't see a lot of it. I was quite heavily out deployed because Spoon's got quite a few more drops, and yeah, he's right, he did out deploy me. But as it turned out, I got that top objective and sat on it with a unit of 10 huntsmen for the whole game and got 100 victory points times 5 or whatever, which was pretty big.
Oh, wow.
So, made a big difference.
Yeah, and they shot their bows and killed like literally nothing, but who cares, because they were just chilling on that objective, gaining points.
There was no eagle to kill. That was a problem.
That's right. They had nothing to kill in close combat. They don't actually have they don't have strings on their bows, as you can see on the models. So they just like whack things with them. Anyway, this shot, the reason this shot is fun is that demon lord with the crab hand has just landed there. He's probably got a name. Spoon, sorry, he's probably called Slathicky, look like Diggity Dog Dog or whatever the bloody hell they're called.
An actual name, but he is Azazel? Yeah. Azazel?
There's Azazel model. Yeah.
So anyway, Azuzu lands here, and I have positioned my Griffin perfectly, as you can see, because everything is in his leadership bubble, as you can clearly see there. So the mighty leadership 9 bubble is surrounding this Griffin, and you can see there those yellow dice. It's quite hard to discern them in the photo, but they are the panic checks. Sorry, no. Terror checks for those. Terror checks for those 3 cavalry units.
Dice were.
So the terror check for the Knights is a 10, leadership 9. The terror check for the Pistoliers is an 11, and the terror check for those other Pistoliers also 11. So all 3 of those units failed their terror checks. They're the dice rolls, which we took in that shot. So all 3 of them failed leadership 9 terror check. Which, if you're interested, if you were to do this exact scenario, it would take another 216 times, or perhaps more, like on average, to get this to happen once. So there's your 9 failed. So yeah, that was at night working. That was hilarious.
Out and all,
we all thought that was incredible. No, I already knew Spoon had this photo, so I was working it out as you guys were talking. But yeah, this is very unlikely. It's about 1 in 6 roughly to fail a leadership 9 check. So failing all 3 is a bit sad, and it was very funny. It was very funny. They booked it all over the shop and because of the angle, as you can see here. You run from the cause of the terror.
Yeah,
so these units were running all over the shop. They were just scattered to the 9 winds, just legging it. And most of them failed their rally checks as well, and like continued to get charged by stuff. And they were just buggering off all over the board, like just doing a dressage competition instead of fighting the bloody chaos, which was quite funny. But what happened in the following turn here is, and it's a little bit difficult to see in this photo, but underneath the wing of the Griffin is none other than Cedric Van Horseman.
Literally waiting in the wings, you might say.
Oh, well done. Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
Waiting in the wings to charge Azuzu von Crabhand and introduce him to Van Horseman's Speculum.
Boop. Love it.
Boop. So there he is. Glorious Cedric. So he finally got his moment to use this. He's been carrying it around the campaign for a while.
He almost got to use it in the campaign if he hadn't failed his
I went to charge
check.
your general, Josh, you might remember, and he failed his fear check.
I remember. And
then ran off the board, which he's done a few times. This time, despite those earlier hideous leadership tests, and there were more to follow, he did pass the one check that really mattered, which was, I think, probably terror to charge or whatever.
Yep.
And he got in there and of course declared a challenge and proceeded to beat the crap out of this demon over several rounds of combat because you swap stats. For those who don't know what Van Horseman's Speculum does, you swap, I want to say, strength, toughness, initiative, and attacks.
Yep.
So not weapon skill. Yep. So he still had like an obscenely high weapon skill, and I think I was hitting on 5s, including the demonic
on 5
hit.
still, unfortunately. Yeah.
But I've got like 5 strength, 5 or 6 attacks, Spoon, something
Strength
like that.
Strength 5, yeah.
And I'm hitting a toughness 3 model because he's got my toughness. And I have some obscene initiative, and he's swinging back with 1 attack at strength 3. So. Like very good chance of me winning this combat over a course of at least a couple of turns or whatever. And as it turned out, what happened?
He eventually decided he couldn't wound my Demon Prince and auto broke.
I did all but 1 wound, and then he just 1 round he just missed all 5 attacks. And
the 5
and then was
killer. That is killer.
Yeah, the 5 hit was a killer. But he could have killed him. Like, who knows what's going to happen when you're only rolling 5 dice? He could have killed him in 1 round. He could have killed him in 3 rounds. He could have fluffed it.
He had a 4-up ward as well.
The Prince did. Yeah,
4-up ward. So that also gave it a bit of a statistically he's doing like about 2 to 3 wounds through, and then the 4-up ward. So like, is that 1 or 2 wounds? You know, it's very close. Like the dice anything could happen out of that combat. So ultimately he did all but 1 wound. So I think, is it 4 out of 5, Spoon? Something like that? 3 out of 4?
3 out of 4 would have been.
Oh, he took him to one wound left, you mean?
Took him to 1 wound left, and then and then fluffed his attacks in whatever round it was, round 3 or 4 of the combat. And because he was outnumbered, he's outnumbered by 1, and he's outnumbered by fear causes, so he auto breaks.
So he just auto breaks.
So he got run down.
The turn after Huw charged him in, I said to Huw, I'm going to charge my Pleasure Seekers into that mage because it would have been a flank charge. And I didn't. For some reason, I changed my mind. Basically, it was going to give me a flank. I'd already had that number. So even though they're in a challenge,
panic check as well, eh?
I don't know if I've got.
Yeah, I guess a panic check. Yeah, because we're in a combat already.
Yeah,
and he does have a flank as a cavalry figurino there. Yeah, I guess it's a panic
I decided
check.
not to for some reason, and that probably would have made a big difference. I'd say probably wouldn't have held up for quite as long.
If in that combat though as well, if I just killed him, I think that was just about the game because that general, that guy's worth like 500 points, and he's the general and whatever else.
580, Plus
580.
so all the battle points for
That's 680 points. And you might remember from this particular scenario, you probably don't because it was like ages ago, but this particular scenario, you get battle points for like wounding the enemy's warlord in a challenge. So he's doing the actual tournament scenario at the same time. That's pretty amazing. But anyway, Cedric did eventually go down to Krabby Von Wingman. And then this guy flapped around with 1 wound remaining for the last couple of turns in the game. And I think I had a couple of like desperate sort of pistol shots at him or something, but didn't manage to finish him off. So
I can't believe the speculum.
He wanted to shoot him, but he was off the table. He chased someone down. I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, might have been
fast cavalry.
Someone else. Someone who was just randomly running past, probably just being like, "Oh!" Yeah, but I still got half his points, so it's like everyone's. I was happy enough with Cedric's performance here, despite he's ultimately going
down. That's incredible. And that's such good value of the speculum. You almost took him off completely. Oh,
yeah,
that thing. But it's so much fun.
Yeah, it's so much fun. You take it as I think, including the campaign games, he's taken it in about 6 or 7 games now. This is the first time he's actually got to use it. So,
it's he had it too.
I thought he's on a horse. Like maybe he's just going to be able to charge the enemy's general more often. It doesn't seem to come together very, very often. But this was the moment. It's not like Azuzu placed himself badly. He didn't. He panicked half my army before this went down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Said Leopold on the Griffin had flown off from like over to the other side of the mountain there, and then he ended up fighting some of those licky tongue sex horses. What are they called? Bloody Demonettes. That's right. So he clawed.
You're making it sound very illicit. It's.
I mean. It was illicit. It was gratuitous. They charged him, and he just gave him a Griffin high five, and they evaporated pretty much. I remember, Spoon, that was another like decision point for you. Do I charge past Leopold and chase off some Pistoliers or something, or do I?
Yeah, I should have just run around it because
take the chance.
I could have just ran around the guy.
Yeah, I think on balance that would have been the better choice, but at the time I wasn't sure either because the sex horses do have a reasonable chance of just killing the Griffin out from under him, and then he's like outnumbered by Fear Causer and he's gone.
Yeah, well, there's the 4 poison
not
attacks
that unlikely.
I would have got, and then there's, I think it was 4 Demonettes, so that's another 8 attacks on top of that extra.
Yeah, it's toughness 5, so if you don't roll the poisons, it's not like, I don't know, but it's another one of those ones, another one of those Warhammer 6th edition circumstances where you're only rolling a handful of dice, and if they spike at a certain moment, it changes the whole game. But anyway, Leopold performed once again, and then eventually flew around to the center and killed a bunch of Demonettes and claimed the prize for like looting that center token. So Leopold, 3 out of 3 absolute bangers on the Griffin, and I was expecting him to be a real potato that just got shot off by shooting, but
sounds like
I didn't play that much shooting, and he just had his moments. His leadership bubble was in the right place at the right time most of the time, despite being on the Griffin. Not that it helped at all in that game, but it's still...
The plan was there. The plan was there.
Yeah.
He's got to learn to roll the leadership test.
Yeah, so ultimately we were pretty close on attrition.
What was the result?
I think I was a little bit ahead on attrition, half the points for Spoon's General being a big part of that. And like I killed the Demonettes because Demonettes are just little walking useless characters basically. So I just
very harsh on those Demonettes.
High opinion.
They have a role.
They have a role, and I was appreciative of that role because it did mean I did get a bunch of points out of the army, grab some banners and all that sort of good stuff, which is the same thing my swordsmen do, right? They give up points and banners and all that juicy stuff. Yeah,
they run off the board from a terror check in the final turn of the game.
Yeah, pretty much. So we ended up, despite the cavalry literally just legging it around off the board and eventually getting chased down. I think they all died at some point or other. They're relatively cheap units. They're like 100 each. So I think all 4 cavalry units ends up being like just over 400 points, 450-ish or something. So even with them all just literally not striking a blow in anger. The other cavalry unit, which you didn't see in screen there, it sort of trotted around the board, didn't have to take any terror checks, and finally charged. It had a chance to charge demonettes in the rear at the end of the last turn and just failed their fear check. So, like, even that moment, I just literally did not roll an attack. Pretty funny. But yeah, I think the main decider here, Spoonie, if I recall correctly, apart from fairly minor difference on points, is I ended up with that central objective right at the end because Leopold came back, and I got heaps of points out of the Huntsman just chilling on the.
I was going to say the Huntsman's 600 or 500 points sitting on the objective. That must have been a big swing.
Holding up the Prince for, it must have been 2 or 3 turns, was also pretty big. Do you remember that I tried to magic missile him as well? I don't know. He must have scrolled it or dispelled it. Because you had no other targets to save him, like protection was. He was able to be shot with a magic missile when I was terror bombing you. Do you remember that?
Yes. Yes.
I don't remember if you scrolled or if I failed to cast, or I can't remember.
I pulled it out anyway. According to my little sheet here, I got 600 out of the objectives and Spoon got 200. So that's a 400 difference there, which is obviously quite big. So I think that made it. And I ended up with a minor victory here too. So I pulled out 3 minor victories. Spoonie was 2-1. Close games all round. Pretty good fun event. Somehow won that game despite the fact all of the things I looked at as strengths were completely useless. But it's one of those weird games of Warhammer.
How it worked out in your favour in the end. So you took out the. Because you ended up taking out the event then.
I did. I won the event narrowly. I had the same number of battle points as the person in second, but I was ahead on victory points, which is the tiebreaker.
Yeah,
second. Yeah.
Right. Richard had a big win against the Gumby army. He said, I think he got a 20 zip or something. Apparently, a lot of failed panic or some sort of leadership checks.
Not going around there. A current theme.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good fun.
Yeah,
I failed probably 70 to 80% of the leadership checks I took over the weekend. Graydon, the games into Graydon, I passed a fair number, I guess, and maybe that evened it out a little bit because, of course, the Tomb Kings give out a heap of them. But for the most part, I was terrible on the leadership, but competent enough in every other phase of the game to just barely keep my head above water. So go the Empire, came up even first, and tiebreaker on victory points, which I was a bit surprised I had so many victory points given the minor wins, but a lot of those I think were scenarios. I made like a good 1,200 or so extra out of accruing those scenario points. So play the objectives, people. It's how you win tournaments. Good times. I also won Best Painted, despite the Griffin's butt being in every one of those photos. I don't think maybe other than the Griffin's butt, the army popped. And in all seriousness, I was absolutely stoked with that. Because I've never won any kind of painting award before in 25 years of tournaments. I've never won anything for painting. And I've never really, I do think this is the best army I've ever painted, but it's
and the colours, even from this far away in that photo, it just does pop off the table really nicely.
Yeah, it pops a bit. And there were some other beautiful armies there, even though it was a relatively small event. There were some really, really nice armies, including Spoons, which is magnificent. I think some painting stuff before, and several other rippers. So in that field, I was absolutely stoked to take away that painting award. And as we speak, the Griffin is sitting on, without its wings, sitting on my desk here, ready to get its butt a manicure.
Get its butt painted up. Nice. It's a pretty army, and I have enjoyed watching it slowly take shape as you play through the campaign every month. Every month, it's like usually not every month,
just like an extra stuff done. Unit here or there. I did paint like 3 or 4 units in 2 weeks leading up to that event, which was an absolute neck breaker, but we got there. Deadlines are good for that.
Now it's done. Next event, you can just take them.
I'll probably find some excuse to paint an extra couple of units or something.
Paint some other army entirely.
Oh God, I don't know. I don't know if I've got another army in me in the near future. Just play a skirmish game for a bit or something. We'll see. The Empire, who needs another army? Once you got a fully painted Empire army, you got it made. You know, you got the men, the manly men of the Empire. What else do you need?
Men. Anything else we want to talk about with Revenge of the Six, guys? Is that we've pretty much covered everything?
I think so. Brilliant event. Well run.
Fourth.
Oh, fourth. Oh, nice.
Fourth, Bernie. Nice one.
Yeah.
Nice one.
So there must have been a couple of swingy games that also then.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Yeah, Richard obviously run quite heavily.
I'll give you.
Wonder
I've
who
got
came
the
third.
score sheet in front of me. So Huw ended on 36 battle points. Then Richard on the same amount of battle points, but we had the tiebreaker with victory point total. Then Gray on 32, and I finished on 29.
So weird event in a way, like 36 out of 60 battle points is the win of the. When you think about it, like 60 max, that's if you 20 zipped your 3 games. 36 is not a very high score. So there was a lot of close games across the event, which obviously helped us out. And like if Spoon magics off the wizard with a good spell and he doesn't get to Van Horseman's Speculum, all that BS in that game, then we probably swap positions. It'd be like first and fourth respectively, the other way around or something. Yeah. So good tight event, fun times.
Yeah. There was Matt, who was under me. I don't know. I played Skaven. He was 28. So it was very
Where did he finish in the tournament though?
Mm.
It was just another Slanish joke. Sorry. That one might have gone through.
Oh, sorry. I totally went over both our heads.
Really good event.
Oh, it's so ridiculous. These constant Slanish jokes. You're worse than any of us.
It's the gift that keeps on giving, you know?
The Slanish gift. Thank you. All right. I think we're getting pretty good time at this point. I might do a few shout outs, and there's a few events that would be nice to discuss because there is still some 6-set action going on. First off, I want to shout out to MOAB in Sydney because they're actually running a 2-day 6-set event.
Go MOAB
on the 4th.
I've never been. I'd love to go. You've probably been, Josh, haven't you?
The MOAB?
Some stage?
Nah. I haven't been to MOAB. I usually go to Castle Assault. That's because I used to live in Newcastle, so I'm sort of familiar with it. So usually that in CanCon. But yeah, so they're running 6-set. They don't have the Old World event yet. I think they're looking for a TO for the Old World, but they haven't finished one. But bizarrely, they have a 6-set sitting ready to go, which is really. But looks cool. They do a pack up there with a bunch of interesting scenarios, which is cool. But then. And then the week after, it's actually the week after that, we've got Cloak and Choppa 2 coming.
Cloak and Choppa 2! Yes. So Cloak and Choppa is a 6th edition event that I ran in October of last year, and it will be October again this year, 11th, I believe it is.
The 11th.
So last year it was kind of not unlike Tom's event, Revenge of the Six that we just talked about, quite similar in a lot of ways. Sort of some wacky scenarios. My scenarios were of a similar wackiness level, like kind of fun and promoting battles and all that sort of thing.
I think there was the way you could get a Rune Fang or something in the last scenario or something like
Fellblade.
that.
Nothing but you could find the Fellblade. You could find the Fellblade, which is pretty hilarious in that one. Yeah, so similar like a kind of pseudo competitive but fairly low key kind of event. This year's a bit different. We're playing a full narrative event. Full narrative event for Cloak and Choppa. What that means basically is I haven't finished the players pack yet. As soon as I do, I'll pop it up on the Facebook page. But for those who are interested, you can already buy a ticket. It is at Gaming Arena again, like this one was, which has got heaps of beautiful tables. And a bar, I might add, which has almost knocked me off the top spot in the last couple of events I've been there, but it's just enough to get me over the line, I guess.
Then you should have been buying him some.
I did after
throw some more beers at him.
After I think those 3 terror checks, I bought him a beer.
You did. Yes, thank you, Spud. Good sportsmanship there. Good sportsmanship. Yeah, the barman has to pass a panic check when I walk in the building. You know how it is. But anyway, back to Cloak and Choppa. Oh, speaking of which, when you buy a ticket for Cloak and Choppa, you get, I believe it's $20 or something. They actually pay the TO, which is pretty cool at GA, or at least you have the option of being paid out of a certain percentage of the ticket price. in this case, I've put all of that on the bar pretty much. So you get every person that enters gets $20 or something to spend on the bar, and then whatever remains. So obviously, I don't ultimately get paid. I'm not really interested in that, but everyone will be able to get a beer or two, and also there's heaps of money that's going towards prizes and things. But the prizes are for wacky fun stuff because, as I said, narrative event.
Yes.
It is good versus evil. So you're on either the good side or the evil side. So it's a one big team event in a way. It's just like two sides. You play still individual battles for the most part, but there'll be a different scenario on every table. So when a round plays out, you could play any one of all sorts of different scenarios. You can pick ones that you like and whatever. So you might have, like, say, an ambush scenario, or some scenario where your vanguard and your army comes on the flank, or all sorts of different... You should
probably explain the vanguard thing as well.
Okay, I will. But I suppose the key wacky thing that's a little bit different to your average event, it's not really a tournament. Your points, if you win the game, it goes towards your side's total. So it's just like a running total, good versus evil. Win a game, you get 3 points. I think a draw is worth 1 point. And, just good versus evil ticks up over the course of the day. And whichever side is losing, I'm going to give them some sweet stuff. So, like, if you're a bit behind, you're gonna find like a Nordland mercenary unit showing up to help you out, or there's going to be some winds of magic meteors landing on your opponents, or whatever whack stuff. So expect some weirdness, expect like random magic items, crazy scenarios, and go with a sort of narrative mindset and take an army that has a nice narrative bent. And you're more likely to get a prize for having like a cool army that's got nice named characters that fit a certain narrative than you are from winning games. And there'll be a good kind of team atmosphere where you're all high-fiving, if you're on the good or evil side. And we might have a few narrative reads between rounds where people's
really?
generals are like involved in the narrative, and then they have to read out their general's lines. I like that idea. I think that would be pretty fun.
Okay.
So it's going to be whack.
I'm very intrigued to see how that's applied.
Lots of crazy ideas. It is 2250 points, but unlike your average 2250, I just straight up stole this idea from Josh. You have a 1250 point.
I actually love that you stole it. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad. I knew you would. So there's a 1250 point battalion, which is like your core force. That's involved in every game. You can have a lord in it. There's a few other army restrictions, but it's pretty similar to a 1250 point kind of list. And that's in every battle. And then you have a 500 point vanguard and a 500 point rear guard. So vaguely, your vanguard could be themed around sort of being a bit more attacky, and your rear guard a bit more defendy, but it doesn't really matter. You can take what you like in those lists, and they have a few restrictions around how many specials and rares and heroes you can have and stuff like that. The only lord slot you got is in your battalion, and you got these two 500 point detachments, if you like. And I can use them in all sorts of scenarios in weird and wacky ways. Like you can have, say, a vanguard detachment turn up on a flank and your rear guard deploy with your main army, or you might have one where you have unbalanced points, as you say, Josh. Like you might have an ambush scenario where the ambushee, the person being ambushed, has all of their whole army, their whole 2250 point army lined up, and the ambusher has a much lower points total, like maybe just the battalion or whatever, or attacking from sort of both sides, and has a huge deployment advantage and gets to go first and stuff, but has lower points. And there could also be a crazy scenario, which alluding to that might exist, where it's like a last stand, where you're disadvantaged in points, but the whole point is just to like try to survive to the last man, and like you're going to get creamed, but you can get a win out of just like having a few dudes left or whatever. So
if you're not
there's all sorts of weirdness. It should be good fun.
Yeah,
and you have to be there, Josh, and stop not attending events. You got lots of notice. So
I've already bought a ticket, man. I've got a ticket.
Cool.
You got the $20 in your bank account, apparently.
Well, on the bar, you mean? Your beer's already waiting for you.
The beer, it's getting warm. Yeah. It's getting warm. No, I'll be there. I made sure that weekend's free. Very keen.
You beauty. So come on down, October 11th, just a Saturday. Good versus evil, lots of games. And if you're like a neutral army, like ogres or something, you could end up on either side. But we'll have roughly even numbers of players, of course, on both sides. It should be good fun.
Yeah, like just that straight up. Yeah, big team, like two sides, good versus evil. That already, like by itself, without any other stuff,
completely is going to change how the event's going to feel compared to a normal singles tournament. You know, it's just like,
Yeah, I reckon.
it's going to be, if you're gonna, it's going to feel less competitive in a way, just because you're not trying to get your own score, but also I think it's going to be a bit of camaraderie where everyone on your side, you're going to be like cheering each other on and like trying to beat the other team, which I'm actually really looking forward to too. Like,
I absolutely love team events.
Different.
What brought the idea about, there's a couple of things. One was Horus Heresy run these sorts of events sometimes. I've never played Horus Heresy actually, but I just love the idea that they sort of do, you know, good versus evil, or more or less, or whatever it's called in Horus Heresy, like Space Marines versus ugly Space Marines. But this one, the other thing that I love about it is that team events are just so fun. Love team events all day, always there for team events, but they're very challenging to run. I've run a few before for a few different games, and it's the biggest challenge is that you need like exact multiples. So say you run 3 teams, it's like teams of 3. I mean, like 3 people per team. You need a multiple of 6 to run even games. So as soon as you got like a couple of people dropping out and you got these people floating around that don't have a team, and you need to have like half a dozen Gumbies in reserve, there's all sorts of complexities there that make it hard. It's still really good, but in a scene with relatively few people, it's very risky to go in with a team event. Which, by the way, I think is why it's awesome that the Dwellers run a
Snake Eyes
team event recently.
Really nice.
Snake Eyes, which
that was just last week.
Yeah, sounds amazing. So yeah, listen to the previous episode of this glorious podcast.
Oh yes, thank you. Yes, just a few days ago.
Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed that. So yeah, good on the Dwellers for doing that. But this is sort of a lot of the fun of the team event in that you get to high five all your homies on the good guys or the evil guys side and all that sort of thing. But you don't have to find a team beforehand. You don't have to paint extra stuff. You don't have to think too much about it. You can just rock up with your normal 2250 army, or maybe paint a themey, wacky narrative unit that you wouldn't put in a more competitive list or something, and just turn up on the day and you know, I'll whack you in a team. You beauty.
You keen, Ben?
Yeah, definitely. It kind of reminds me of the Storm of Chaos campaign. I participated in that back in the day, where you were submitting results to Games Workshop on their website or something. I can't remember how it worked, but you were submitting the results, and the map would change. I know you're not having a map or anything, but
well, I've thought about how I could do a map. Like you could do something map related, but I'm not promising anything on that front because it is, it's a little bit difficult, complex.
Yeah.
And there's already a lot of fairly ambitious changes to your standard event in there. So we'll see. I've got a lot of ideas. I can only cram so many in. But in any case, guarantee you'll have a fun time with the awesome 6th Ed community if you rock along to that one.
Yeah, nice. So that's 11th of October. Keen for that, absolutely. And then this weekend campaign, House of War. Anyone that wants to play, welcome to enjoy it. Unfortunately, Huw, you're doing a service to the Legion community, but hopefully we can get a game. You can get your game in at some point. I don't know. We'll see if anyone else can't make it on Sunday, and might be able to work out a make-up game or something like that.
Yeah, or ambush anyone who's fallen off the side of the table or something, and get a game in halfway through the month, maybe. But failing that, we'll have to liberate Pugno, which is the town that my army are currently surrounding, on a different day.
Yeah, it's full of chaotic blight at this point. No one's touched a blight yet. It's got to happen this month, surely. Otherwise, I'll just start feeling blight all over the map if no one chooses to engage with it. Chooses to engage with it until I force you to deal with it or die.
So I'll get stuck into the taint next episode, mate. As soon as I have a chance to be not at an event, get along, kick some ass.
Yep, cool. All right, I think I might wrap it up there, guys. If anything else you want to talk about, you happy if I roll the outro? Yeah, cool. All right. Thanks for listening, guys, to another 6th Ed Fanatics episode. If you enjoy our ramblings, we'd love another 5-star review on your podcast software of choice, or if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe buttons and click the bell to be notified of latest videos. And again, feel free to join our Old World Fanatics Patreon if you want. It's obviously Old World, but if you want to join we've got a pretty cool Patreon sort of only
Discord channel, which has some good chatter, just general hobby stuff as well as, a lot of all stuff in there, but lots of hobby stuff too, which is nice. But yeah, so until next time, thanks for listening to another episode of the 6th Ed Fanatics. All right, cheers, guys.
Happy hammering, homies.
Bye.